It is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to our speaker today, Mathieu Bonnet. And in July, he swam 150 kilometers or halfway around Manitoulin. Manitoulin is the world's largest freshwater island. In doing so, he became the first person to swim the entire northern side of the island. It was really cold. His self-described life purpose is to be the light for dark places. He witnessed firsthand the darkness of multiple sclerosis that wreaked havoc on an individual and their loved ones. His aunt, Claire Poirier, passed away from this illness in 2019, which is why he dedicated this swimming expedition in her memory, raising $26,000 for the MS Society of Canada. Surprisingly, Mathieu only started swimming about a year and a half before attempting this expedition. A broken foot led Mathieu to swimming, as this was the only way for him to stay active. In November of 2020, he struggled to swim across the pool, as I do almost every day, still. Only 9 months after beginning to swim, he swam across the largest lake in the world contained within city limits, Lake Wanapitei. This swim was in loving memory of Evie Cacciati, son to Chris and Leslie, fellow Rotarian, and brother to Zoe, raising $12,500 for Neo Kids. That same summer of 2021, Mathieu swam across 20 Northern Ontario lakes to raise money for Camp Quality, a summer camp for kids affected by cancer. He strives to achieve seemingly impossible goals to show that if you believe it, you can actually achieve it. He hopes to inspire you to achieve your ambitious goals so that you may better yourself and your community. So with that, I welcome Mathieu.
I'm here today to share with you my story of attempting the impossible. And some of you may be thinking, what's this got to do with peace? What's this got to do with the environment? Most importantly, what's it got to do with all of you? To which I would say, wow, tough crowd. When you're attempting these goals related to peace, related to the environment, they will seem impossible. How can you bring peace to a conflict-riddled community when, if we're being honest with ourselves, you struggle to keep peace in your own family or even your own Rotary club? I don't know about you, but sometimes we fight about who gets to ask the questions at the end. Hopefully that won't be the case today. Environmentally, we're dealing with the biggest crises ever. Climate change, the Pacific garbage patch. These goals, these problems seem impossible to solve. And so yes, it's a story about swimming, but it relates to you because you have your own goals, your own ambitions, your own dreams. And I hope that my story can inspire you to achieve them. Here I am, standing on the shores of Lake Huron. I'm gazing out across the water, and that tiny white speck that you can see in the distance, that's a lighthouse. Today I will be swimming 7 times that distance. I'll be swimming further than I've ever swum, 21 kilometers. And this is the first day of a planned 30-day long swimming expedition. I'm planning to swim 350 kilometers. That is further than from here to Toronto. And so the thought that is in my head is, what the fuck am I about to do to myself? Which I think is a perfectly valid thought to have in that situation. And so why? What brought me there? My aunt was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at the age of 29 years old. I saw it take everything from her. Multiple sclerosis is an illness that affects the way your mind communicates with your body. It's a spectrum, but with her case, it was incredibly aggressive. I saw it slowly take away her ability to live independently and care for her kids. She lost her job. She lost her home. She lost the ability to talk and walk. and in the end, she lost her life. And so when I saw this suffering, I asked, why? Why does this need to happen? And I thought to myself, you know what? There are other families in the world going through this right now. And maybe in the future, it doesn't have to be that way. And so I set myself a completely impossible goal because I wanted my swim to point to a world where this illness would be cured. So when you're attempting the impossible, the first thing is to have a powerful why. To have a very strong sense of purpose. And if you're dealing with the environment or peace, those are some powerful whys. The first step in achieving something is believing it's possible. If you don't believe it, you're not going to take any steps. Belief is incredibly powerful. And so when you see my story, I hope it expands your mind to what you believe is possible for you and your community. I am not a professional swimmer. Well, maybe I can call myself that now. But a year and a half ago, I had a broken foot. I went to swimming because it was the only activity I could do to stay active. I struggled to swim 25 meters, which is a single pool length. Last time when I presented to the Sunrisers, I showed a video of myself swimming, and one of my fellow Rotarians made the comment, "You were drowning and you didn't even know it." I don't know who said that, but the point is, when you look at something like this, you expect, oh, they've been swimming their whole life. No, I worked my butt off to get there. Well, your second counter argument is, oh, well, he's a natural athlete. Actually, no. I was never athletic growing up. I tried out for the basketball team in high school and I got cut. I tried out for curling and they had to take me because I was the fourth guy. So the only sport I played is curling. So I started getting active when I was 30 years old. And this is 5 years ago. On the left is me and my sister. On the right is me after swimming Lake Wanapitang. Sometimes belief is too hard. These steps that I'm sharing with you are not necessarily sequential. Sometimes where you want to go is so far that your brain melts and you can't believe that you're going to get there. If you would have told me on the left that one day I would be doing this swim, I would not have believed you. That first step is the hardest to take. Get moving. Have that vision in your mind and get moving. For me, get moving is quite literal. I suffer from very severe depressions. I experienced a state known as catatonia. The first time I experienced this state, I didn't know what it was, and I was terrified. My mind-body connection wasn't there. All of you sitting here in this room, the fact that you were able to come here today are ahead of where I started my swimming journey. I could not move, I could not speak, and my brain was trapped in hell. And the thought of living an ordinary life to me seemed impossible. I never thought I would live an ordinary life ever again. And I've gone on to live an extraordinary life. How did I do that? Get moving. With my mind-body connection, it was overwhelming for me to move my body. So I broke it down to the smallest, tiniest piece that I could, which for me was to wiggle my right pinky finger. And I put all of my mind, all of my effort into doing this. And once I was able to do this, I moved on to the next finger and the next until eventually, with time, I was able to move and to speak again. Get moving. And that's what I did. That's the lighthouse, that tiny white speck that I showed you. Those first 15 minutes, I was so in my head, I was so nervous that I swam like shit. But I told my team, I let them know, guys, I need some hype, I need some support, and they provide it. So when you're in a tough place, you gotta let people know. They don't know unless you share that with them. You gotta let them know, and most people, especially Rotarians, wanna help you. And so here I am. That first swim was incredible. I swam 21 kilometers in 7 hours. I swam by lighthouses, I swam by islands. A fishing boat came out to see me and said, "What the hell are you doing out here?" They said, "Don't you know the water is 59 degrees?" They admired the courage of me and my team, and they donated $50 then and there on the spot. And that was just day one. This is from day two. Day two was meant to be a recovery swim. So I swam 21 kilometers the day before, but logistically things were a lot more complicated than we anticipated. I was supposed to swim 6 kilometers, and I ended up swimming 16 on very little food, very little water, and as you will see, in not the best conditions. Water temperatures were 55 Fahrenheit, and waves got up to 5 feet. After day two, my team brought up some safety concerns with me, because as we were going further south, conditions were getting rougher, water was getting colder. We definitely had some meetings and put some safety plans into place, and I'm really glad we did. We decided to push forward. On day three, you could see me about to hop in the water, covered in Vaseline and sunscreen. I was pretty gross. I gave up. Every day I would put this on, so I gave up trying to wash it off because it was really a pain in the butt to get off. But that morning was perfect. We woke up before the sun. We saw the sun's red on the water. Conditions were like glass. I was swimming. I covered those first 8 kilometers beautifully. On our right was sheer cliffs. We were somewhere where I was the first person to swim here. I lived a very unique experience. There's no people anywhere to be seen except for us. I'm connecting with nature, I'm connecting with the water, and it is beautiful. When all of a sudden, bam, I hit this wall of cold water, and my skin starts burning. I pop my head above the water, and I just say, "Fuck, it's cold." And Christine looks at me, and she says, "Swim." At first, she doesn't know what I'm complaining about, but bam. Then she sees her thermometer just start dropping. My skin turns a bright red and deathly white. I feel my fingers inflate like sausages. My feet inflate like balloons. I feel the blood drain from my lips and turn blue. I'm unable to move my hands. They're frozen in place. And yet I'm still swimming forward. Believe it or not, the safest thing to do in this situation is to keep swimming. Reason being is if you're swimming, you're generating body heat. If you get out of the water, your body temperature drops. It's just counterintuitive. As a survival mechanism, your body sends the blood to your core and brain, because if you're going to lose something, you can afford to lose an arm or a leg. And as you get out of the water, your blood redistributes to the rest of your body. And so your core temperature drops quite suddenly. So I just kept swimming. I didn't break pace. And it sucked. When I heard Christine say 600 meters, I just cranked up the speed as much as I could because I knew that I could start warming up. When I got out of the water, I was shaking so violently. I stripped buck naked. I put my boxers on, but I couldn't put the rest of my clothes on. I needed my team to help me get dressed. Put under a sweater, hoodie, sweatpants, you name it, and wrapped in an emergency blanket. And you can see here that I was not a happy camper. I call this type 2 fun. Because in the moment, it is not fun, but now I got awesome stories to share with you. So the fun comes later. Before we had the discussion, I knew what my team was going to say. We had a meeting the next morning, and we decided it was not safe to keep pushing forward. Water temperatures were the coldest they've ever been historically, and I couldn't control that. I was obviously devastated because I set a year of my life aside to train for this without income. I put all of my heart, mind, soul into this project, and it was not the outcome I wanted. I then thought of the many individuals I met who struggle with MS, who had a grieving period when they were diagnosed with their illness, but somehow were able to accept their change in circumstance and still live joyful lives. I drew inspiration from them. When you get diagnosed with MS, with cancer, or any illness, this is not the way you want your life to go. This is not the way you want your life to go. You need to grieve it. You do not control what happens to you. You do get to control how you react. And so on a dime, we shifted all the plans, shifted everything, decided the south side of the island was unswimmable this year, and I hopped back in the water. I hopped back in at the northern channel, and I swam 100 kilometers in 6 days. Which brings me to my next point, which is keep moving. Keep moving. There will be moments of doubt. There will be moments of despair. There will be moments where it doesn't seem possible. There will be moments of failure. Keep moving. Keep moving. And so here's me on the northern side of the island. I'm the splash. I'm submerged in a wave here. You can see the nice big blue expanse of water and a sailboat in the distance. And contrary to my expectations, I was not getting less efficient, I was getting more efficient as I swam. And so I was swimming faster than 3 kilometers an hour for these hour-long swims, which was unreal to me. I was banging out these 20-kilometer swims one after the other. Obviously, things didn't go to plan again. The day before the last, I could sense something was wrong with the team. My friend Simon, who was my feeder that day, came to me and said, "Matt, Christine is done. Christine's my captain." I was devastated. I said, you can't ask more of people than they're willing to give. To be fair, her and her husband, Rick, this was their summer vacation. It was not restful. They had jobs to go back to. They need to rest and recover. Logistically, it was a lot more complicated than we anticipated, and we didn't have enough people. We put out a call to action, but nobody answered. We didn't have anybody on the boat the next day except for Christine, which is not safe. And I didn't know how I was going to figure it out, but I was determined to figure it out. And so in your darkest times, you got to put this all together. And like I said, the steps are not sequential. Remember your why. Believe, even if you don't see how, believe in your heart that somehow you will get it done. Get moving, keep moving. I just picked up the phone and started calling every single number in there. I couldn't find one person to help us. And then I thought to myself, what if I can find just one person to help us? And so I switched the plan. Instead of swimming 3 days, I would do it all in one. I went to go talk to my captain, Christine. She had to be on board for this. I said, "Christine, what if we do it all in one day? Are you on board for that? Then I just need to find one person for you in the boat. We don't need a ground crew because we're finishing." And then she perked up with excitement. Yes, we can do this. One person for 1 day, we can do this. So logistically, it simplified a lot to make one big, long swim instead of 3 different ones. So I called. Finally, my friend Glen answered the phone and dropped everything to come help us out. So we were a go for the next day. That next swim was incredible. It was the biggest high of my life. There was one moment of doubt, and that's when I was approaching Little Current. I saw the windmills, and I saw I was swimming into the wind. If you know anything about Little Current, it's a misnomer. The current is quite strong and powerful there. They built a bridge there, so it's a choke point, and the water is really strong. And as I did my research, I realized that the current goes with the wind. I knew I was swimming into the wind. I knew I'd be swimming against the current. And so the thought that was in my head is, what if I swim all day to get so close to the finish, only not to be able to finish? What if I fail once again due to the uncontrollables? And I shared that with my team just for the mental weight to be gone. It didn't change what I had to do now. That outcome was out of my control. What was in my control? Just to keep flopping my arms. And so that's exactly what I did. As I approached Little Current, the energy around the swim was unreal. There was this camp, I remember this camp with 20 to 30 kids there with signs saying, "Go Matt." I could hear them cheering me on. I didn't plan for this. They just came there to support me. I was feeding all that energy into me and into my swimming. So many campers, so many strangers, family, friends came down by docks to come cheer me on. As I was in Little Current, I was dialed in. When I saw the swing bridge, I knew I was finishing. I was swimming hard, fast. I was in the flow. I was in the zone. It felt unreal. It was peak performance, but it felt effortless. As I went to breathe, I saw Christine's eyes. They were open wide and staring at me. And the nonverbal she was saying to me was, "Holy fucking shit." I felt the same way. I was outpowering this current that I did not think I could outpower. I was doing something I didn't think I could do. And when I approached the swing bridge and swam onto it, I flipped onto my back, and I purposely swam as slowly as I could. These moments in your life will not come often. These moments in your life will not come often. You need to soak them in. And so that's what I did. I flipped on my back, swam as slowly as I could, and I remember someone peering over the bridge and staring down at me as this weird moment of human connection, locking eyes with a stranger. And like I said, it just felt unreal. I went on to finish the swim, and my dad was the first to welcome me, to hug me. I like to celebrate by giving wet hugs. I hug everybody I can. One hug that really stood out to me is Sandy, who's the MS Society representative for Sudbury. She stood out of her wheelchair to give me a hug, which meant a lot to me because I knew how hard it was for her to do that. So when you're attempting your impossible goal related to peace, related to the environment, remember, have a strong why, a strong sense of purpose. Have an unwavering, undying sense of belief in yourself. Get moving. Take that first step. Keep moving. Keep on taking steps. No matter the outcome, in failing to swim around the whole island, I became the first to swim halfway around it. I became the first to swim the whole northern side of it. No matter what, you will amaze yourself. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
I've heard that a few times now, and it still gives me chills. So, as you know, because we did regret him to come be a sunriser, and we haven't scared him off yet. So, as you know, we will be. Okay. Thank you. I'm used to yelling at my children, so. We will be planting a tree in Rotary Park. Actually, we'll probably get you to plant your own tree.
I already planted it.
Yeah. As recognition for speaking today. But I do believe we have some time for questions, should anyone have questions for Matt.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
What's next?
That's a question everybody asks, yeah. I think two questions, I throw myself so fully into my projects, that two questions I ask myself are what and why. My immediate what was to get back in there and finish the swim around the island. When I started looking inwards, I noticed that my why was off. I wanted to do it for me, to show I could do it, for my own sense of pride. And I like to attach a higher purpose, so I knew that my why was off. I'm currently writing a book called Light from Darkness, and it's making good things come from the incredibly bad. And I thought not making it around this island was a stronger message. And it related to my book better. So what's next is right now I'm working on a book.
I'm just going to make a comment. You sat beside me and told me how you were scared shitless about getting up there and doing this talk.
Oh, yes, I was, yeah.
Yeah. Bullshit. Okay. You had us all engrossed, and maybe you are a keynote speaker from now on, not just a teacher.
Thank you, thank you. I think to bring it back to that, I was terrified, you know. I still was terrified. Courage is not being afraid, you know. Before starting this swim, I had panic attacks. I cried from overwhelm. You know, I was terrified because I was stepping into the deep unknown. And so even today I was scared shitless, as you saw, you know. So it's not about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing it anyways.
Matt, I wanted to commend you for sure. I mean, that's such an incredible story. Congratulations, where you came from and where you're at. The question I have was in regards, you shared with us that for a year and a half you gave up, no work in your training. And so how did you bounce back from that?
If I'm being honest with you, it's hard right now, financially, yeah. So I am barely clinging on to my house is the hard, honest truth, you know. But somehow I'm making it work. Somehow I'm bouncing back. You know, right now I'm kind of doing some odd jobs, and I started doing some private tutoring, and I'm renting a room out of my house. You do what you got to do, right? So I think as far behind financially as I am now, I saw it as an investment in myself. So an investment is a short term you're behind, long term you're ahead. And I really vividly taught myself that I can take a thought, as absurd as it is, and turn it into a reality. And so this mindset that I developed about swimming, I can develop about finances or about anything. I can go from being in debt to being wealthy. Right now I'm doing the equivalent financially of swimming 25 meters. But if I keep learning and educating myself and putting the work in and switch directions on what I'm aiming at, there's nothing to stop me from becoming wealthy.
Just wondering if you could comment on today how powerful is the the physical side of you tied into your mental transition, and you're coming from a darker period. We all struggle with depression from time to time, but I was Bear Bryant with Alabama football team. He said, "Grow every day in every way, mental, physical, and spiritual." And that physical side really evolved. How did you find that affecting your overall mental side when faced with adversity, if that helps? How did that, and where is it like today? Do you call upon that strength for your mental side as well?
I guess I'm able to do the things I do, not in spite of my mental illness, but because of it. So where does mental strength come from? It's developed from being in really hard times. And like I said, going to live an ordinary life just seemed beyond me. And once I was able to achieve that, then that changed my mindset. So I was depressed after my swim across Lake Wanapitei again. And I just reframed that suffering. Sometimes the truth is you can't remove your pain, but you can give your pain purpose. And the purpose that I gave that pain was to mentally prepare me for my swim. And I know everybody wants a happily ever after story. The truth is it's not that way with mental illness. The truth is right now, you would never know it unless I shared it with you, but I'm depressed right now. You would never know that unless I opened up that interior world with you. Just because you can't see the wounds or understand the wounds, it doesn't mean they're not there. But I'm giving this pain purpose. Instead of using this pain to isolate me, I've decided I'm going to use this pain to connect me. Because I know I'm not alone in suffering.